Hello and welcome to another bookish video. Disclaimer, I am filming this right after I filmed my June reading wrap up, so you may be able to tell that I'm wearing the exact same outfit in the exact same position, but let's just knock out two birds with one stone because it's a gloomy day and I just want to talk about books. So this is my midway through the year reading wrap up. So I'm not going to talk about all the books that I've read, but I'm going to talk about my favorites that have standed out and my least favorites, or just books that I didn't really like, and we're also going to talk about my stats. So let's get right into it. My stats according to Storygraph are, and if you just see, I'm just reading off of my computer here. I have read 35 books of my 50 book goal that I made at the beginning of the year. I have read 9,947 pages. Of these books, 71% has been fiction and 29% has been non-fiction. My most read authors, it's just one, it's Miko Kawakami. I've read 2 books. Apparently, I've not read multiple books by any other authors, kind of surprising. February was my biggest month so far with 10 books. April is the lowest month with just 2 books. My average star rating is 3.94, which is pretty high, but I am a pretty loose rater. Like, I don't give stuff low ratings just because, like, I just gave stuff high ratings. But anyways, that's fine. I do have to give this disclaimer before we get into the books. These are just my opinions. Books, literature, reading, like any other art form, is subjective. So just because I like or don't like something doesn't mean that you are going to have the same opinion. And not a lot of people watch these videos anyways, which is totally fine. Thank you for being here if you are one of the people who watches these videos, but I just don't want to make anyone upset by them thinking that my opinion is like the only one that matters. I don't think that at all. If I don't like a book and you like it, okay, like that's, you know, everyone is going to be different. So anyways, with all that aside, let's get into the books. And I'm not going to be doing plot summaries on these ones. I'm literally just going to be giving my thoughts, like my kind of thoughts on them very quickly, because we have a lot of books to get through for like my least favorites and favorites, even though it's not all of the books that I've read. But I am going to be saying the month in which I read them, so you can go back on my channel and you can watch that month's reading wrap up if you want like a more in-depth review, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll say the months, but let's start with the worst ones so that we can end off on a good note. And these are in chronological order as well, not in like least to favorite order or anything like that. The first one is, unfortunately, A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. I did give this one 3 stars, but I really didn't like it. I read this in January. It felt confusing to me just for the sake of confusing. Like, it felt like it was trying to be elitist or something. And again, this is only my opinion. I felt that it had a good idea, like it had a good thought going, but it just wasn't really executed well. And the names were insanely hard to follow, in my opinion. So moving on to the next. All the Water in the World by Erin Kafal, another 3 stars, and this was from February. My main issue with this book is that the physics of the world, like the actual world building, didn't make sense. This book is set in like water, like flooded. Basically, New York City has been flooded, but I'm pretty sure most of the United States at least has been flooded as well. But the issue is, they would be describing how like all of New York City is underwater, but then they would be describing playing in a park. How do you play in a park if the city's underwater? Like, and I don't think the flood changes that much. Like, they would talk about how it's like multiple stories underwater. They would see that they could see trees, like the tops of trees just peeking out of the water, but then they were playing in a park? How does that work? How does that work? So didn't really understand that. It sounded like it was changing nearly every page the water level, but just not in an intentional way. And also it was a little bit too long and repetitive in my opinion. Like, a lot of the things that were happening, like, of course that makes sense when you're in a post-apocalyptic world. A lot of the stuff you're going to be doing day to day is going to be the same. Just wasn't that interesting to read, in my opinion. Next, I read A Suffragist's Guide to the Antarctic by Shun Lai. 3 stars again. Again, as I said, I don't really rate negatively because I just feel bad. This was another book in February. Similarly to All the Water in the World, this felt a little bit long and repetitive, but I do give the author props on doing her research, as this was a first novel, a debut novel from this author, so props to her. I just didn't really like it. Ending was meh. Okay, This next one is really bad. We had to remove this post by Hannah Bervowitz. 2 stars, which is really, really low for me. Again, this was in February, and this is likely my most disappointing book of the year, even though I have heard about it so much from other bookish creators. Didn't like it at all. Literally felt like nothing happened. It was just written for shock value, but I found that the shock value wasn't even that bad or extreme. Like, I've read worse, and I know it's not like a competition to who can write the most disturbing book, but when you're writing a book that's supposed to be disturbing and it's not, it just doesn't really make sense. It was so short as well, and the ending, like right at the ending, stuff started to get good, and then I literally flipped to the next page and it was like a cliffhanger and it said this was the end of the book, and I was like, okay, like where's the rest of it? Like, you were just starting to get good and now it ended, and there's not like a sequel or anything. Shame. Next, Last Night I Sang to the Monster by Benjamin Eiler Sains. Again, sorry, I'm pretty bad at pronouncing stuff, so sorry for all of these books if I pronounce it wrong. This was 3 stars, February. I read this book in one sitting while I got my stomach tattooed, which I did make a vlog on that. This probably had good hidden themes and like sense of community for people who have gone through substance abuse issues, but it was insanely boring to read. I'm sorry, it was so boring to read and it felt like nothing happened. So that's my short review for that one. Okay. Dengue Boy by Michelle Nevea, translated by Rahul Berry. 3 stars. Read this one in March. Different from all of my other complaints that I've been making, this book had way too much happening. There were so many themes and storylines converging in this one short book, but they didn't even merge well together. It was such a strange and weird book, which I usually like weird books like that, but this was something that felt like it was just for shock value, but then the plot was like so lacking. It didn't spend time developing characters or plot lines. It just felt like they were like throwing out themes and just putting it there. Beta Vulgaris by Margie Sarsfield, 3 stars, March. Again, this was weird for the sake of being weird. I didn't get it. Nothing much happened. Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, 3 stars, May. Too long, like 400 pages too long, and it was really good until it started dragging about a third of the way through, and then towards the end it was just more action, and the fight scenes, whoa, just did something weird on my computer. The fight scenes were so repetitive that I felt like I was reading the same page over and over again, unfortunately. I understand why the ending the way that it was, but I like something a little bit more satisfying that doesn't leave me with such a sense of dread and sadness. And yeah, I really thought that there was something good there, but just for me, this one didn't hit the way that I like. So the last unfortunate book before we can get into the good ones is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. 3 stars, May. This just wasn't for me. I didn't really understand what was happening. It just wasn't for me. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I've heard so many good things about that, so I don't want to cloud with my negativity. Just didn't like it. Let's get on to the good books. And these are all going to be 5 stars, so I'm not going to be saying my star rating because it's 5 stars for all of them. First, All the Lovers in the Night by Miko Kawakami. This was read in January. This was such a good and impactful work for me. This was my first Miko Kawakami book. Nothing really happens, and I know that for my bad books, I've said nothing really happens, and that was like why I didn't like them. This book, nothing really happened, but I liked it, like in a good way. Like, it was just an ordinary woman, her ordinary life. Well, not so ordinary, like everyone struggles, so it was like explaining her struggles, but just a slice of life book. And I just love her writing. So you'll see I'm reading, like, I've read a lot more Miko Kawakami after this one, and well, not a lot more, just like one more, but I have a lot of her other books and I'm going to read more, I promise. Next we had Big Swiss by Jen Began. This was January as well. This was such a weird and off-putting book, but in the best way. I don't really want to say too much about this book because I went to it mostly blind and I loved it, but I would say if you want like messy, unsettling vibes, like dirty country houses, weird characters who make mistakes, you know, female main characters who are a little bit evil, and just strange things happening, this is for you. The Vegetarian by Han Kang. January. Another weird girl book. As you can tell, I love reading these like weird, off-putting female main character books in the winter while I'm on the train commuting to university. It's a very popular book. You've probably seen it before or heard of it before, but it definitely deserves all the hype in my opinion. It's another book in which I can say nothing really happens because it's not like action filled or like there's no severe plot lines, but it's just like something that you could hear people talking about. It's like real life, you know, like it's just real life struggles that people face. This one's a little bit more extreme because it deals with like mental illness and stuff like that, but yeah, just strange, unsettling vibes and some sad, honestly sad. So recommend it. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This was written in March. This is the newest installment in the Hunger Games franchise. I read this in just a few days, and I did make a reading vlog on this book, which is on my channel if you're interested in that. Just go down into like March and you'll find it. Yeah, I'm not gonna say much because I think you should. I do think you should read the Hunger Games books, like the first 3, before you read this one. I don't necessarily think that you need to read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in order to get into this one, but I do think you need to read the Hunger Games. I don't think you actually need to, but it'll make a lot more sense for you if you do. So yeah, read the Hunger Games and then go into this one. I don't want to say much. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. March. This was read in March. This was surprising for me as I thought that I wouldn't like this, or I thought it would be like too hard for me to understand just because it was PKD. That's what people call him, I think. Maybe. I hope. But I actually loved it. It was so much better than the original movie. I still do really like Blade Runner 2049. I hate the original Blade Runner movie. I'm sorry. I hate it. But this book I really liked. Like, it was so different from the movie. So even if you really like the Blade Runner movie, read this. If you really didn't like the Blade Runner movie, read this, because I think it adds a lot more perspective. I mean, that's common, right? Books are usually better than the movie, but it's just so good. How to American by Jimmy O. Yang. Not gonna say much. This was read in April. It's a really good and funny memoir. Done. Body by Bill Bryson. This was read in May. This is a science-ish nonfiction book that taught me a lot about the human body, taught me a lot about science without being boring and without too overloading you with information. Done. Rejection Proof by Jia Jiang. This was read in June, so I just filmed the reading wrap-up for that one. That will be on my channel before this video, so if you're interested in a little bit more thoughts, you can go watch that. So it was an inspiring memoir that really, just helped me in my own life with getting out there more. So if you struggle with getting out there more and trying new things, this might be good for you. Touch the Top of the World by Eric Wehenmeyer, another June book. This was an inspiring memoir about not letting things limit you and just trying, even if you may not succeed. Just try anyways. Just like Shakira said, try everything, like in the Zootopia movie. Don't let anything hold you back. Even like this is about a blind guy climbing Mount Everest. So if he can do that, you can do, or at least try to do small things. Just one step a day can get you really far. Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. June. This is maybe my best book of the year. I'm gonna say it, even though we're only halfway through, this might be my best book of the year. This is so good. It's very similar to Fable by Adrienne Young, which I always recommend, and I've wanted to read more pirate books ever since I've read that. It was so funny. It had me like cracking up a bit while I was reading it. It's just written in such a funny way, very different from Brandon Sanderson's other books, so I don't know how you'll feel about that, but very unique story, very unique world, very unique writing. I highly recommend. And with Tress of the Emerald Sea, we wrap up all of the good books, which means that I am done yapping about my halfway through the year reading wrap up. Sorry if I was talking really fast. I kind of just wanted to get through it, not in a weird way, but like, I don't know. I feel like when I ramble and go slow, it gets boring. So I don't know, let me know your favorite or least favorite books of 2025 so far if you want. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Well, I'll do like, obviously I do my reading wrap-ups every month, but I'll only do like another one of these style videos at the end of the year where I'll do this again. I'll talk about the ones that stood out for being bad and the ones that stood out for being good, as well as my stats. I'll do that at the end of the year. So thank you and goodbye.